Everyone underestimated her until she took down the leader of the most dangerous gang in the West. Dustfall was a harsh planet. Red sands stretched for miles, dotted with jagged rocks that caught the sun in glimmers like broken glass. The wind howled through the canyons, carrying dust and distant cries of desert wildlife. In the center of this rugged world sat Dustfall Town, a small settlement of metal buildings patched together with scraps of alloy and old ship hulls. Life was difficult, and the townsfolk were cautious, always watching for danger. Danger came in the form of the Iron Fang Gang, the most feared group in the West. They attacked supply convoys, stole from miners, and left the townspeople living in fear. No one paid much attention to Clara Reyes. She was quiet, focused, and always seen with her tools. She spent most of her time fixing droids, hover wagons, and small energy devices. People whispered that she was smart but fragile, someone who should stay out of trouble. Clara didn't mind. She liked the quiet, liked working with her hands, and preferred machines over people. But machines didn't run themselves. They needed skill, patience, and courage, qualities Clara had in abundance, though no one in Dustfall seemed to notice. That morning, Clara rode her hoverbike into town. Its engine purred softly beneath her, a mix of polished metal and humming energy cells. She stopped at the edge of the main street to observe the town. Dustfall was waking up slowly, merchants were setting up stalls, miners were heading out to the rocky ridges, and the sheriff, a tall man named Rance Holloway, walked down the boardwalk with a tired look. Clara's sharp eyes noticed movement near the horizon, a group of dust clouds racing toward town. She knew that speed meant trouble. She had studied the Iron Fang Gang's patterns quietly for months. They didn't attack randomly, they had a schedule. They liked to hit the supply convoys on the open plains and then retreat to hidden tunnels or abandoned orbital factories. But today's approach was different. This was not a convoy raid, it was aimed straight at the town. Clara pushed her bike faster and reached the saloon first. Inside, townsfolk shouted and ducked under tables as the sound of distant gunfire and energy blasts reached their ears. A gang scout had come ahead of the main group, testing defenses and spreading panic. The sheriff shouted for everyone to stay calm, but his voice carried no authority against fear. Clara dismounted and assessed the situation. The scout was small but quick, dodging between barrels and crates. Most of the townspeople ran in fear, but Clara noticed an opportunity. The scout's movements were predictable. She grabbed a spare energy pistol from her belt, one she had modified herself for accuracy and rapid cooldown, and climbed onto a small platform for a better angle. The scout froze for a moment, seeing her for the first time. Clara's hands were steady. She adjusted her aim and fired a precise shot, disabling the scout's hover pack without harming him. The scout crashed to the ground, stunned, and the townspeople gasped. Some were shocked. Others whispered, "It's just a girl." She jumped down and quickly tied the scout's hands. She glanced around at the crowd. Their fear was thick, but she felt no fear herself. She had prepared for this moment silently, patiently, and her time had come. She whispered a miner. "Don't waste your breath. The gang will kill her if she tries more." Her focus was on the Iron Fang Gang's patterns, on their next move, and on keeping the town safe. She studied the horizon. The main group was approaching faster now, riding hover horses and small attack vehicles. She estimated their arrival in less than 5 minutes. Clara ran to the town supply shed and checked the stored energy barrels. They could be used for barricades or distractions. She set up a simple trap, placing barrels in narrow alleys and lining them with wires that would trigger sparks. It wasn't lethal, but it could slow the gang down, give her time to think, and maybe, just maybe, make the townsfolk see her in a different light. The wind shifted, carrying the faint smell of scorched metal. Clara heard the hum of the gang's energy rifles. The first attackers reached the outskirts of town and the chase began. Clara ran alongside her modified bike, firing shots to disable vehicle engines and force gang members to the ground. Each shot was precise, calculated, and effective. No one in the gang expected such skill from a quiet young woman. In the saloon, the sheriff tried to organize a defense. Some of the townsfolk grabbed old rifles and pistols, but most of them froze, unsure of what to do. Clara's actions gave them courage. One miner, a stocky man named Jeb, picked up a rifle and followed her lead, firing carefully at incoming attackers. Another, a young girl named Mira, handed Clara spare energy cells and ammunition. Despite their efforts, the gang was strong. They fired back, and energy blasts left marks on walls and doors. Clara ducked behind cover, then rolled forward, using the alleyways and her knowledge of Dustfall's terrain to her advantage. She led small groups of gang members into her traps, disabling their vehicles and creating chaos among their ranks. Amid the fight, Clara noticed a familiar symbol on one gang member's armor, the emblem of Vark Thorn, the gang's leader. He was not here yet, but his presence was felt in the organization and the fear the gang instilled. Clara knew the fight today was only a test. Thorn would come eventually, and she would need every advantage when that moment arrived. After nearly an hour of skirmishing, the gang retreated to regroup. Clara, her arms sore but her mind sharp, checked the town. No one was seriously hurt. The scout she had captured earlier was tied near the sheriff's office. He would be questioned later, but for now, Clara's work was done. The townsfolk slowly emerged from hiding. They looked at her differently now. Whispers floated through the air. She's faster than the gang. She thinks before she shoots. She saved our town. Clara said nothing. She simply cleaned her weapons, adjusted her tools, and prepared for the next challenge. She had proven herself today, but she knew the real fight had not yet begun. The Iron Fang gang would return, stronger, smarter, and angrier. And when they did, Clara Reyes would be ready. As night fell over Dustfall Town, the red sands glowed under the twin moons. Clara stood at the edge of town, looking toward the distant mountains. She knew she could not hide anymore. The quiet tinkerer was gone. In her place stood a sharpshooter, a strategist, and someone the gang had underestimated at every turn, and they would pay for it. The desert winds of Dustfall carried dust and heat, but also whispers of fear and uncertainty. After the day's attack, the town slept uneasily, knowing the Iron Fang gang would return. Clara Reyes did not sleep. She had seen enough to understand the gang's methods and weaknesses, and she was determined to prepare. The quiet tinkerer the townsfolk had underestimated was now fully alert, ready for the fight that was coming. Clara returned to her workshop, a small shack built from old ship panels and alloy scraps. Inside, parts of hoverbikes, droids, and weapons were scattered across tables. She worked quietly, disassembling and improving her gear. Her energy pistols needed faster recharge cycles. Her hoverbike needed better handling, and she wanted to make small traps to slow down any gang patrols that might come scouting. She paused and studied a holographic map of Dustfall Town. The map highlighted the main streets, the supply routes, the mines, and the canyons surrounding the town. Clara marked locations where the gang had been active, noting the most vulnerable points. She could predict the gang's movements. Their attacks were not random, they had a rhythm, knowing that rhythm would give her an edge. While working, she heard a soft knock at her door. She looked up to see Jeb, the miner who had helped her during the attack, holding a worn rifle. "You need help?" he said simply. Clara shook her head. "Not yet. This is something I have to do myself." Jeb frowned. "Some of us can help, even a little." Clara studied him. The fear in his eyes was real, but so was his determination. She nodded. "All right, 2 people. Just enough to watch the streets. And you follow my instructions exactly." Jeb nodded, relief and pride mixed on his face. Clara gave him a small communicator and explained her plan. They would act as lookouts, reporting any movement of the gang before they reached town. Every detail mattered, the number of riders, the timing, the weapons they carried. By dawn, Clara had tested her modified pistols and hoverbike. The sun was a dull orange, casting long shadows across the red sands. She felt a calm focus. This was her environment, and she knew it better than anyone. She set out, using the canyons and rock formations to hide her movements. Her goal was to find the gang's hidden routes and scout them before they returned. Hours passed. The desert was quiet except for the occasional distant howl of a sand fox or the hum of a mining drone. Claire moved carefully, leaving small sensors and tracking markers behind. They were simple devices, disguised as rocks, but they could record movement and send signals back to her workshop. It was late afternoon when she saw it, a cloud of dust moving far on the horizon. Clara crouched behind a ridge, her pulse steady. The gang was scouting, 3 riders on hover horses, lightly armed, moving toward the town. She observed their behavior, noting the way they spread out and scanned the area. Clara waited until they were halfway through the canyon, then triggered one of her small traps. A flash of sparks and a loud noise startled the gang riders. One of them lost control of his hover horse and tumbled into the sand while the others scattered briefly. Clara used the moment to gather more data. She knew the gang would analyze any mistake carefully, so she had to be precise. By the time the riders regrouped, Clara was gone, leaving only subtle markers of her presence. She returned to town before nightfall, careful not to be seen. In her workshop, she reviewed the data. The gang's movement suggested a hidden base somewhere in the nearby Iron Ridge Canyon system. It was remote, defensible, and connected to old mining tunnels. If Clara could find the entrance, she could plan a way to stop the gang before they attacked again. Over the next few days, Clara continued her reconnaissance. She used her bike to move quickly across rough terrain, hid in the canyons, and set up traps along the routes she knew the gang would use. Each time she intercepted a patrol, she left subtle warnings, scared but unharmed. Her goal was not to fight everyone at once, but to weaken the gang's confidence, to show them that someone was watching, learning, and planning. Meanwhile, rumors of a mysterious vigilante spread through Dustfall Town. Some whispered, "It's Clara," though many still doubted. Even the sheriff, Rance Holloway, watched with a mix of skepticism and admiration. He had never seen someone so young, so quiet, take such control in a dangerous situation. He made no comment, but he followed her actions carefully. One evening, Clara returned to her workshop to find Mira, the young girl who had helped her during the attack, waiting. "I want to help," Mira said. Her eyes were wide, filled with both fear and determination. Clara hesitated. Mira was brave, but inexperienced. "You need to be careful. This is dangerous." "I can follow instructions," Mira insisted. "I want to learn." Clara studied her. The girl reminded her of herself, small, underestimated, but intelligent and determined. Clara nodded. "All right. You'll help me with communications and keeping track of patrols. That's important. You follow my instructions exactly, and you stay safe." Mira grinned and got to work, setting up monitors and relays in the workshop. Clara felt a small sense of pride. This wasn't just about fighting the gang. It was about preparing the town, creating allies, and showing others that courage came in many forms. That night, Clara stayed up late, reviewing everything she had learned. She realized that the Iron Fang gang was stronger than she had first thought. Their patrols were organized, their scouts trained, and their leader Vark Thorn, clever and ruthless. He had not shown himself, but she could feel his presence in the way his gang moved. Clara decided that a direct confrontation was not yet wise. She needed more information, more preparation, and allies she could trust. But she also knew one thing clearly. The townsfolk had underestimated her, and she would use that to her advantage. Vark Thorn thought she was weak. That mistake would cost him. The following morning, Clara led Jeb and Mira to a vantage point overlooking Iron Ridge. The canyon was vast and treacherous, filled with jagged rocks, narrow paths, and hidden tunnels. She pointed out locations where the gang might hide and routes they would use to approach town. "We have to be ready," Clara said. "If they come for Dustfall again, we won't wait for them to attack. We'll meet them on our terms." Jeb nodded. "I trust you, Clara. I've never seen anyone move like you do," Mira added. "I want to help you catch them." Clara smiled faintly. "Good. Then listen carefully. Every detail matters. Watch for patterns, timing, and changes. That's how we beat them." For the next week, Clara, Jeb, and Mira moved quietly, observing the gang. They learned their patrol shifts, their favorite hiding spots, and even the way the scouts signaled to each other. Clara made small improvements to her weapons, reinforced the town's supply storage, and set traps in key locations. She worked tirelessly, never resting, always focused. Then, one afternoon, Clara noticed something unusual. A new gang scout appeared, one she had not seen before. This scout moved differently, scanning more carefully, using devices to detect hidden traps. Clara realized that Vark Thorn was aware of someone interfering. Her presence was no longer a secret. The gang was preparing for a counterattack. Clara's mind raced. She knew that the next attack would be stronger and more dangerous. She had to strike before they struck first. She gathered her team, explaining a plan that relied on intelligence, precision, and careful timing rather than brute force. "We can't fight them head-on," Clara said, "but we can outsmart them. Use the terrain, the tunnels, the traps. Make them think the town is weak, then show them it's not. And above all, we stay calm. Panic is their weapon. We won't give it to them." Jeb and Mira nodded, ready to follow her lead. Clara felt a strange mix of nerves and determination. This was more than defending a town. This was proving that someone underestimated could be stronger, smarter, and more capable than anyone imagined. As the sun set over Dustfall, Clara looked toward Iron Ridge. The red sands glowed under the twin moons, casting long shadows across the canyon. She knew the gang would be back. She knew Vark Thorn would come. And she knew one thing clearly. The quiet tinkerer no one noticed had become the most dangerous opponent the Iron Fang gang had ever faced, and when they arrived, she would be ready. The morning sun rose over Dustfall with a harsh orange glow, painting the canyon walls of Iron Ridge in streaks of fire and shadow. Clara Reyes was already awake, checking her weapons and gear. The quiet tinkerer had become a strategist, a sharpshooter, and now a leader. Today she planned to confront the Iron Fang gang on their own terms. Her allies, Jeb and Mira, were waiting at the edge of town. Clara briefed them quietly. "We know their patrols. We know their scouts. Today we'll disrupt them before they reach Dustfall. But we have to be precise. One mistake, and it could cost us everything." Jeb tightened his grip on his rifle. "I'm ready." "Me too. Let's do this." "Good. Follow me, stay close, and trust my instructions." They set out across the desert, using the small canyons and rocky outcrops to remain hidden. Clara's hoverbike carried small gadgets and traps. She had prepared decoys, sensors, and noise devices to confuse the gang. That Dustfall's harsh terrain was an advantage, and she knew it. As they approached the first patrol route, Clara crouched behind a rock and signaled for Jeb and Mira to stop. 3 gang riders appeared in the distance, moving slowly to scan for traps. Clara activated one of her devices. A series of small sparks and noises echoed through the canyon. The riders flinched. One lost control of his hover horse and tumbled to the sand. Clara didn't fire. She watched, letting the chaos spread. The remaining riders tried to regroup, signaling back to the rest of the gang. Clara quickly marked their positions with a small sensor, recording their movement for future attacks. Then she signaled her team to move forward. By midday, Clara had intercepted 2 more patrols, using a combination of traps, gadgets, and strategic positioning. The gang began to realize someone was interfering. Their formations grew tighter, their movements more cautious. Clara smiled quietly. They still didn't know her full plan. They still underestimated her. Returning to the outskirts of Iron Ridge, Clara spotted the faint outlines of a hidden tunnel entrance. It was cleverly disguised with rock panels and dust, but her careful observation had revealed it. This must be part of the gang's hidden base. She crouched and studied it, noting the patrol patterns and sentry positions. The base was larger than she had imagined, built into a canyon wall with multiple levels and access points. "We're going in," Clara whispered. "Careful, watch the sensors. Stick to my route. One wrong step, and we'll alert the whole gang." Jeb nodded, gripping his rifle. Mira followed, her small device ready to relay information. Clara led them through a narrow side path, avoiding the main entrance. The tunnel smelled of metal and dust, with old mining equipment scattered along the walls. Small lights flickered, powered by the gang's hidden generators. Inside, they observed the gang's operations. Members moved in organized patterns, repairing vehicles, preparing weapons, and reviewing patrol reports. Clara noticed a group of scouts discussing recent setbacks, the traps she had set, the disruptions she had caused. Their frustration was clear. She smiled faintly. They were beginning to fear someone they had underestimated. Clara motioned for her team to stay low. They moved carefully, marking key points and noting weaknesses in the gang's security. She set small devices along corridors to record movement and trigger minor distractions if needed. Everything was precise. Every detail mattered. Suddenly, a guard paused near their hiding spot. Clara froze, holding her breath. The guard scanned the area, humming quietly. Mira's small communicator buzzed softly, and Clara signaled her to stay silent. The guard continued down the tunnel, unaware of the intruders. Clara exhaled slowly, relieved. One small mistake could have been disastrous. After observing the base for hours, Clara led her team back to Dustfall Town before sunset. She reviewed the data they had collected. The gang's layout was now clear, their patrol patterns predictable, and the base's weak points identified. She had the advantage she needed for the coming confrontation. That evening, Clara gathered the townsfolk in the saloon. She explained the plan, emphasizing coordination, precision, and caution. "We won't attack blindly," she said. "We'll use their own base and patrols against them. We'll disrupt them, weaken them, and show them that Dustfall is not an easy target. Everyone has a role. Stick to it, stay calm, and trust each other." The townsfolk listened, some with skepticism, others with hope. Clara's quiet confidence inspired them. For the first time, they saw that someone who had been underestimated could lead, plan, and fight strategically. Night fell over Dustfall. Clara, Jeb, and Mira moved to a vantage point overlooking Iron Ridge. The twin moons cast long shadows across the canyon walls. Clara studied the base, her eyes tracing every patrol route and entrance. She adjusted her traps remotely, ensuring the gang would be disrupted if they attempted an early strike. Hours passed. The wind carried the faint hum of machinery and distant conversations. Clara felt a mix of nerves and excitement. The Iron Fang gang was strong, but she had prepared carefully. She had learned their patterns, observed their routines, and identified their weaknesses. Today, they would learn what it meant to underestimate her. Suddenly, a flare of light appeared near the base entrance. Clara's eyes narrowed. It was a scout, one she had not seen before. This one moved carefully, testing for traps and signaling back to the gang. Clara realized they had noticed the disruptions. They were cautious now. Their leader, Vark Thorn, must be aware of someone interfering. Clara quickly activated a minor trap, a small explosion and sparks in a hidden corridor. The scout reacted immediately, calling for reinforcements. Clara watched as more gang members mobilized, their confusion growing. She signaled Jeb and Mira. "It's time. We'll weaken them before they even reach Dustfall. Stay sharp." Using the canyon's narrow paths, Clara and her team moved closer, observing the gang's reactions. They avoided direct confrontation, instead focusing on sabotage. A hover vehicle malfunctioned, forcing the rider to bail out. A supply crate triggered a small explosion, sending metal fragments across the canyon floor. Each disruption was calculated, designed to slow the gang and create confusion. By midnight, Clara had successfully disrupted several patrols and damaged key equipment. The gang was frustrated, disorganized, and on edge. Clara's careful planning and execution had given Dustfall a chance to defend itself. The townsfolk, inspired by her actions, prepared barricades and secured critical areas. Clara, however, knew the fight was not over. Varkthorn would come personally. The next attack would be stronger and more dangerous. She gathered Jeb and Mira, explaining the final part of her plan. "We've weakened them. We've shown them someone is watching. Now we wait for Thorn. When he arrives, we'll be ready. He thinks he's facing a simple mechanic. He's wrong. Very wrong." Jeb nodded, determination in his eyes. Mira adjusted her device. "We can do this. We trust you." Clara smiled faintly. "Stay focused. Stay calm. And remember, we fight smart, not just fast. That's how we win." As they watched the canyon from their hidden perch, Clara felt a surge of confidence. She had planned, prepared, and executed flawlessly. The Iron Fang gang had begun to fear her, and Dustfall Town had seen that someone underestimated could be stronger, smarter, and faster than anyone imagined. The twin moons reflected off the canyon walls, casting long, dramatic shadows. Clara's eyes traced the distant base. Already planning the final confrontation. She knew it would be dangerous, but she was ready. The quiet tinkerer no one noticed had become a strategist, a fighter, and a leader, and the most dangerous gang in the West would soon learn that underestimating her had been their greatest mistake. The first light of dawn spread across Dustfall, painting the desert in pale gold. Clara Reyes stood at the edge of town, overlooking the jagged cliffs and canyons that led to Iron Ridge, the hidden base of the Iron Fang gang. Today the final confrontation would happen. The gang had been weakened, their patrols disrupted, and Clara's strategy had sown confusion among their ranks. But their leader, Vark Thorn, was cunning and ruthless. He would not be fooled twice. Clara checked her weapons one last time. Her energy pistols gleamed under the rising sun, calibrated for rapid fire. Small gadgets, sensors, and traps were secured to her belt and hoverbike. Jeb and Mira stood beside her, ready and alert. Both were tense but determined, inspired by Clara's courage and planning. "We stick to the plan," Clara said quietly. "We control the terrain, use the traps, and force them into mistakes. Watch for signals and stay calm. Focus is our advantage." Jeb nodded. "Understood. Ready when you are." Clara led them along a hidden path into the canyon, carefully avoiding open ground. The wind carried the faint hum of machinery and the distant sound of voices. The gang was preparing for the attack, unaware that Clara had studied their base and patrol patterns. Every move she made was deliberate, every step calculated. As they approached the first patrol post, Clara triggered a small distraction, a flash of sparks and noise from a hidden sensor. 2 gang members reacted immediately, moving toward the source. Clara and her team stayed low, observing. Jeb fired a single disabling shot at a nearby hover drone, causing it to malfunction and crash. The patrol was confused and slowed, giving Clara the upper hand. They moved deeper into the canyon, following the path Clara had memorized. The tunnels and rocky outcrops were familiar to her now, and she used them to her advantage. Small traps she had set earlier disrupted more patrols, minor explosions, falling debris, and false sensor alerts. The gang was disoriented, their confidence shaken, Then, at the mouth of the main base, they saw him, Vark Thorn. He was larger than Clara had imagined, with a presence that demanded attention. His armor was dark and imposing, with energy plates that shimmered under the morning light. A few lieutenants flanked him, holding weapons and signaling to the remaining gang members. Thorn's eyes scanned the canyon, narrowing as he noticed the chaos among his patrols. He barked orders, moving swiftly toward the source of disruption. Clara's heart pounded. This was the moment she had prepared for, the final duel. "Stay behind me," Clara whispered to Jeb and Mira. "This is between him and me. Watch and support, but do not engage unless I signal." Thorn advanced, his energy rifle raised. "Show yourself, mechanic," he called, his voice carrying across the canyon. "I know you're here. Come out and face me." Clara stepped forward, her pistols at her sides, her stance calm and confident. "I'm not just a mechanic," she said, her voice steady. "And I'm not alone." Thorn's eyes widened slightly, but he recovered quickly. He fired a warning shot, a streak of energy blazing past her. Clara ducked behind a rock, returning fire with precise, controlled shots. Sparks flew as her bullets struck the canyon walls and the metal plates of nearby drones. The duel was not just about speed, but strategy. Thorn moved aggressively, using his size and armor to intimidate. Clara relied on agility, cunning, and intimate knowledge of the terrain. She dodged, rolled, and used cover, leading Thorn into traps she had set in advance. A loose rock formation that tumbled under his weight, a hidden sensor that triggered a small energy blast near his feet. Thorn roared in frustration, realizing he had underestimated her. "You're clever," he said, advancing cautiously. "But cleverness won't save you." Clara smirked, hiding a surge of adrenaline. "Maybe not, but it can give me the advantage." She lured Thorn toward a narrow canyon passage, forcing him to slow. The walls were close, limiting his movements and neutralizing some of his armor's power. Clara fired a series of quick, precise shots, aiming for weak points in his armor and distracting him. Thorn stumbled, but he recovered, firing back. Sparks flew and dust clouded the canyon. From her hidden position, Jeb and Mira supported her. Jeb disabled Thorn's nearby hover drone with a careful shot, while Mira's sensors tracked Thorn's movements, sending data to Clara in real time. This coordination allowed Clara to predict his next move, staying one step ahead. The fight became a combination of wits, speed, and precision. Clara used the terrain to her advantage, ducking behind rocks, jumping over narrow gaps, and firing from unexpected angles. Thorn's attacks were powerful but predictable when analyzed carefully. Clara waited for the moment when he overextended himself. It came when Thorn lunged forward, aiming to crush her with brute force. Clara sidestepped, triggering a trap she had set earlier. A small energy pulse knocked his armor off balance, sending him sprawling onto the canyon floor. Clara moved quickly, keeping her distance but staying ready to strike. "You could have surrendered," she said calmly, "but you underestimated me." Thorn struggled to rise, anger and surprise flashing in his eyes. "You're just a girl. How did you—" "Someone who's been underestimated all her life, and that was your mistake." Thorn rose slowly, realizing the truth. The gang's remaining members, seeing their leader disoriented, hesitated. Clara's precision, strategy, and preparation had thrown them off completely. She fired one last disabling shot, aimed at a key panel on Thorn's armor, short-circuiting his systems. He fell back, defeated but alive. Clara signaled Jeb and Mira. They moved quickly to secure Thorn and the remaining gang members. Dustfall Town's defenders began to arrive, organized and ready, inspired by Clara's courage. The gang, demoralized and confused, had no choice but to surrender. Clara approached Thorn, her pistols still ready. "You underestimated everyone here," she said. "Not just me. The town. And that's why you lost." Thorn glared at her but said nothing. His defeat was complete. The Iron Fang gang had been broken, their leader captured, and Dustfall Town safe, for now. The townsfolk gathered, eyes wide with awe and gratitude. Clara, quiet and composed, looked at them. "This town is stronger than any gang," she said. "We fight together, we protect each other, and no one underestimates us again." Jeb and Mira smiled, proud to be part of the victory. The sheriff approached, nodding in respect. "You've done something remarkable, Clara. Dustfall owes you more than I can say. I didn't do it alone. The town helped. We all did it together. Remember that." As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over Dustfall. Clara returned to her workshop. She cleaned her weapons, repaired her gadgets, and prepared for whatever might come next. The quiet tinkerer had become a hero, but she remained humble, focused on the work that kept her town safe. From that day forward, Dustfall Town knew a new truth. Someone underestimated could be stronger, smarter, and braver than anyone imagined. Clara Reyes had proven it, taking down the leader of the most dangerous gang in the West with courage, intelligence, and precision. The twin moons of Dustfall rose that night, casting soft light over the desert. Clara stood outside, watching the horizon. Somewhere out there, other dangers waited, other challenges. But she was ready. She had faced the worst, and she had won. Clara Reyes, once quiet and overlooked, had become a legend, and the Iron Fang gang would never underestimate her or Dustfall again.